Thank you for joining me today. Let us continue reading this book by Wylie. We are now on chapter 11 of this book, Jesuitism. Our Father in heaven, indeed, your Spirit will open the door for us that we may understand. And I pray that the snares of the enemy will be exposed and that we will be vigilant and watchful. Have mercy upon us, Father. Through your Son, Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen. Chapter 11, Spread of the Jesuits in Germany and Poland, etc. Let us track the progress of the Jesuits over Christendom and survey the trophies, how thrilling, ghastly, which they have left behind them. Their victories were sung of long beforehand in doleful, though graphic, strains. O thou enemy, thou hast destroyed cities, their memorial is perished with them. But we are made to bear the thread of the avenger following hard behind. For instantly the sacred lyre rings out, the Lord shall endure forever. He had prepared his throne for judgment, and passing on to the closing book of Revelation, we are shown the emblematic execution of that vengeance when the seven golden girded and white vested angels come forth and pour out their vials, filled, we are told, with the wrath of God who liveth forever and ever. The Jesuits made their first appearance in Germany about the time that the Lutheran Reformation had attained its climax. From that hour, the Reformation began to go back in all the German countries. The plan pursued by the Jesuit was the following. Their best men they sent to the university seats. Their colleges, such as the Ingolstadt, soon fell entirely under their influence. They established small detachments of their order in chief cities, and there they opened pretentious seminaries. The rest they distributed as schoolmasters over the country districts. They professed a boundless zeal for education and gave themselves out as experts in the art. Their aim was to draw the youth and especially the sons of Protestants into their schools. In this, they succeeded. They took care to have a few brilliant examples of their teaching ready for display. But the bulk of their pupils were as far beneath as the others were above the average of attainment. It was the form, not the substance of knowledge, which they communicated, training the memory but dwarfing the judgment, concentrating their attention on a few and neglecting the many. They found out that art of teaching without educating. They drilled their scholars in punctuality and obedience. They taught them to observe the fit days, to recite aves and paters, to walk two and two in processions, and to wear crosses and other popish emblems. The wearing of rosaries, says Ranke, was the first sign of the eve of the Reformation in Germany. They meant no harm, the Jesuits said, by teaching their Protestant pupils these innocent arts. Perhaps so, but in 20 years the sons had forsaken the faith of their fathers, and a new race of Romanists had risen up in the German fatherland. But the most melancholy theater of their tactics was Poland. The ruin of that once cultured and Protestant country lies at the door of the Jesuits. There too the school was the great instrumentality with which they worked. They began by sending forth a few brilliant Latin scholars. But before many years had passed, letters were extinguished. Eclipse fell on the national mind, and the light of Poland was turning to darkness. The Jesuits made court to the rich. They ingratiated themselves with the municipalities and drew castles. They drew castles and lands into their possession, built magnificent colleges and convents, and with the spoils of the nation made war upon the nation. At length there was no access to court but through their good offices. And in the distribution of public honors, that they took care that their friends should have the lion's share. While the polished and clever Jesuit was busy in high places, there were others equally clever in their own way who operated at the other extreme of social scale in the guise of peddlers, jugglers, and mediciners. They perambulated the country, haranguing at fairs, acting passion plays, mingling in mobs, throwing out incentives to riot, and the outcome of these violences were not unfrequently the wrecking of a Protestant chapel and the enforced flight of its pastor. If they could not drive away a Protestant minister, they assailed him with lampoons and calumnies. The peace of city was now in their power, and when the public order was disturbed, the magistrates had to come with a bride in their hand and solicit the good fathers to interpose their authority and allay the tumult. By these arts, they made themselves at last the rulers of Poland. Its prosperity and trade decayed, its military spirit ebbed away, its political influence was extinguished, and the neighboring powers rushed upon it, conquered, and ultimately partitioned it. When the German countries, and in particular Poland, Bohemia, and Hungary, had by these intrigues been disunited and split into factions, the Jesuits adventured on the last and crowning step. They brought in the armies of the Catholic League and set up the Inquisition. After this, the work was not long undoing. The tragedies that followed belong to the historian. They are among the saddest scenes in a European story. The flourishing Protestantism of Poland, Bohemia, Hungary, Transylvania, first smitten by armies, was finally turned out by inquisitors. The wide space between the Elbe and the Carpathians, the theater till that destruction fell upon it, of art, of letters, of cities, and of men, who converted into a comparative desert. Cities sacked, fields covered with the slain, Protestant churches in flames, the gallows groaning under its load of victims, scaffolds swimming in blood, and chain gangs on their way to the galleys. Such were the spectacles which presented themselves throughout the wide expanse, offering appalling testimony to the unsparing vengeance which the Jesuits can execute on those who sin against the church by the profession of an obnoxious creed. Having finished in the east of Europe, the sons of Loyola turned their attention to the west, where the Reformation from its center in Geneva was extending itself over the countries of France, Switzerland, England, Scotland, and the Low Countries. We must follow them thither. May God have mercy upon us through his Son, Jesus Christ. Thank you so much for your prayers and support for this ministry. Amen.